Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's Friday evening, and it's 9 o'clock. Time to gather in the music room and live stream. But first, as always, a little music. Enjoy. Good evening, Budgie.
We are all the heirs to Scotland, as a nation proudly stand. We will march beneath her banners to protect our ancient land. In the glens and cities, there on every street are the living heroes no army will defeat. Let a flag mean freedom and not a battle drum. To the world we bid a welcome in 1,000 different ways. We will toast to long lost friendships as we build our better days. In the glens and cities, there on every street are the living heroes no army will defeat. Let our flag mean freedom and not a battle drum. We are all the heroes of Scotland. We're a nation hand in hand. We will march beneath her banners to protect our ancient land. In the glens and cities, there on every street are the living heroes no army will defeat. Let our flag mean freedom and not a battle drum.
Good evening, folks. Hope you're all doing well. Friday again, my friends, eh? The beginning of the weekend. The weeks just vanish, evaporate. And yet when you're a young man, they seem to last forever. Good evening, Silius. Yeah, it's a curious aspect of time, isn't it? It sometimes seems to simply evaporate, and at other times seems to drag on forever. Quite curious. So anyway, we're back at the weekend. let's hope the weather stays decent. It's a bit problematic up here. It's one of the things. Well, that's right, Budgie. It really can be that way. It's quite amazing. And I remember once when I was down in Cornwall, and I was involved in some supernatural event, and towards the end of the evening, time really became very, very peculiar. Never quite worked out what was going on. Leaving where we were in what was once a prison, which had long since stopped being a prison. And oh, there's Duck. Good evening, Duck. Hope you're doing all right there, my friend. Yeah, it took us by car from where we were staying to the venue. It took about 40 to 50 minutes to get there by car. That was on the way to the venue. Bodmin Jail, you may have heard of it. You may not. Hey, foreboding looking place. It goes way back to Middle Ages times. But on the way back, a fog had fallen over the landscape. Quite a thick fog. Now, I don't know if that was part of what caused this. But we reckoned by the time we got back to our accommodation, we reckoned it had taken us way over 2 hours to get there. And no one could account for this. And then we started getting phone calls from other people who had been there with us and had gone off to their accommodation. And they were reporting the same thing. The time was curiously long. Hours seemed to have been lost. It was most peculiar. It was like something you might see in a spooky movie. Only this was for real, of course. And there was a lot of things that went on. When was this? This was a good number of years ago, Duck. It's when I was highly involved in that kind of endeavour. I've always been involved in it, on and off, my entire life, ever since I was a boy. But this was obviously as an adult, so it'd be about, I don't know, 15 years ago, perhaps more. I could never explain it. The thing about this venue, this Bodmin jail, was what made it intense. It was a place, it was a prison where people were regularly hanged, and a reproduction of this uh, gallows was in the courtyard. Really quite strange. And then for no apparent reason, there was a short tower, not a terribly big tower, but a short tower, and the bell started to sound. Obviously, there was no one in the tower to ring the thing. But it rang out for some time. And cars that were parked in the courtyard started bouncing all over the place, bouncing up and down, as though somebody or something were jumping on the roof or the bonnet, causing the car to bounce up and down. Most peculiar. A very active sight, as we would say. But don't ask me to explain what was the cause, because I really don't know. To say so much, this place had so much history attached to it, so many dark things had happened in this place. It was a real brutal prison over the time. One of these places that had whole families locked up, children, awful place. Absolutely awful. And that was the thing about the time. It depended on where you were. on this location as to how you experience time. I remember in one area where I was going somewhere. I was going from one point to a second point, and somebody had these divining rods. You probably have seen them, at least in documentaries or perhaps films. These divining rods. Well, somebody had a set of these, and they were using them, and they were spinning like mad in this area. And I happened to put my my arm out into where the rods were. I was trying to find out if there was any difference in temperature. Was it cold? Was it warm? Or was it just the same? And when I put my hand in to this area, I noticed that in those days I used to wear uh, a wristwatch. I don't wear a wristwatch now, but in those days I did. And I happened to notice that my wristwatch was spinning around. Again, I couldn't explain what caused that. And when I took my arm back out again, it stopped. The watch stopped doing this. Most peculiar. Silly this. Interesting, John. Many wretched souls of bad men must have expired there. Very eerie. It was. Um, this was Bodmin Jail, if you've ever heard of it. The other thing about the jails and prisons like this, um, there's a lot of people incarcerated for things that you and I would be appalled at. We're appalled. You know, one of the ones that I remember was you'd have a cell, and within the cell there was another cell, smaller, of course. Yeah, Bodmin in Cornwall. That's it. That's the place. Do you know it? And inside these smaller cells, this is where children would be kept. Well, this is a long time ago, Toffee. This is hundreds of years ago, this place. It's not used as a prison now, of course. It's been long since abandoned. It's in private hands, and it's used as a grisly sightseeing place. So there was lots of children incarcerated in this place, you know, and they had these plaques outside the actual prison, you know, the cells themselves, and it would tell you details of what the people were locked up for. That's some of the things that I remember, you know, children being locked up for stealing a chicken. Obviously, well, I'm saying obviously, I assumed it was obvious starvation the children were foraging for food and were caught. Whole families, some of them, you know. Budgie. There's an American channel called Off the Yard. Interesting prison tales, USA. Yeah. I'd never heard of it. I was invited down, you see. These were these were people who were hoping to become involved in television shows, hoping to make them. If I may, says Cilius, the only experience I have that is remotely comparable, at least atmospherically, was when my dad took me as a boy near where the Sonny Bean Sonny Bean clan resided. There was a foreboding atmosphere. I'm not surprised the amount of people they killed, bluntly. Yeah, stealing bread. It's all the things that, just called out absolute poverty and desperation. It just, it was more, well, it was heartbreaking and it was grisly. There was a bit out the back, which was just grass, and 100 years ago or more, this was used as a cemetery where they just dumped the dead bodies, covered them over. Awful, dreadful place. But as I say, I got invited down because this group of people that I'd come into contact with, they were home to make TV shows like Most Haunted. Cilius, I would love to explain it in more depth, but I don't know how to jump on the stream, if that's at all possible. Oh, that is possible. I can put a link into the chat. And you can come on and speak, which would be nice. I'll just get my okay, doke, Treble M. Thank you, by the way, for the videos of Ray Davis. So here we go. So you just use that link there. It's easy enough. As our toffee will tell you. There we go. You get your headphones and on you come. David William, son of Larn. Good evening, sir. I will hopefully get to the post office tomorrow, young David, and post you off your welcome pack. And you should get that sometime next week. So before he comes on, I can tell you that I got another good report from the consultant this morning at the hospital, and the cancer remains stable. And I will not need to see them again until I think it's November, December. And it'll be the same routine. I'll go for what do you call it? Consultation. And there's tight Scotsman. Well, thanks, folks. It is good news. As I say, it's as good as it can be. The only thing that could possibly be better than that is if the good God provided a miracle and cured it. But I'm not looking for a miracle. I think it's good enough that the prayers that you all give up on my behalf, I'm sure help in keeping my situation stable. And that, as I say, that's as good as it can be. Very good, Toffee. Cancer is no match for our John. Well, as I say, that's as good as it can be. So that means, as far as I'm concerned, it means I can think forward. In terms of what plans can I make? Now that I feel as though I can make some plans, I'll crack a can of chewy tablet flavoured stout. All right. Oh, there he is. My guest has arrived, folks.
Hello, John. Can you hear me?
I can hear you fine. That's great.
Terrific.
Yeah.
Well, I have to say, John, I'm a debutant. I've never been on anyone's stream before.
Well, thank you very much for making my stream the first one then.
Oh, thank you for having me, mate. Thank you.
No problem at all. So you want to say something about yourself before we get into the conversation, or you just want to dive right in?
Well, I suppose I've been listening to you for a good number of years now, John. I think it was Cy Ferry. No, Cyborg, excuse me. Cy Ferry, somebody else. Cyborg's stream I was listening to. And I think I don't know if you put a link to your channel on the chat, John, but he said there's an old geezer. He's one of our boys. He's of our political persuasion, shall we say? So I thought I'd check you out and
here you are.
Aye. But no, I always love listening to you. As I said, John, your kind of eerie stories. I suppose you might not hear it as much in our circles, maybe. But I suppose it's a wee bit of a diluted version of your story there, John. As I said, the only thing I can recollect that's somewhat similar, it's down near, it's in Ayrshire. I know that, the Sonny Beans.
That's right, yeah. My big pal Jerry, who's no longer with us, unfortunately, he was a bit of an expert on this subject.
Right.
In fact, I've got it here somewhere on my bookshelf because he bought me a book about it because I'd never heard of it.
Right.
But he was he loved all that stuff, especially Scottish stuff. You know.
Aye, it's quite fucking. It's sorry to swear. It's quite.
So long as you know the rule, it's only that one word, right?
No, it's quite it's a grisly episode in our history. It's really quite a ghastly story. The one about the beans and the clan.
Absolutely. For anybody who doesn't know, this is a family that lived in a cave that could only be accessed via the tide. When the tide was out, you could get in. And they were notorious for murdering folk, dragging them off to the cave and then eating them.
Mm. Oh, grisly.
That's what I thought.
I know the only reason they were apprehended, I believe they killed a poor merchant. I think the fellow was on his way to, well, don't want to give too much information away, but I think these poor people were on their way to a farmer's market, or a cattle market down near my way, actually, on their way back up to Ayrshire. And the Beans attacked, I think it was a husband and wife, if I'm not mistaken, and they got the poor man's wife. They ambushed the wagon, and the fella managed to get away within an inch of his life. And then the king dispatched so many men to try and apprehend him. Yep. So had that person managed to get away with just the clothes on his back, like I don't know how many more poor devils they would have got.
It was quite a large count. So
I mean, so they reckon. I mean, who's to know how many they actually got?
Exactly. In those days, how would you know?
And another thing for your viewers there, John, I'd imagine a lot of your audience, I don't know if you've seen it yourself, but Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah, Budgie's got that up here.
1976, I think it was made. Just a horror movie staple. But as Budgie says there, I think in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre they were named, the fictional family, they were named the Sawyer family.
Is that right? And it's not a film I've seen.
And supposedly that's a nod to Sonny Bean and his horrible family.
Their famous spray there.
Aye, well.
Jeez, that's awful.
Aye, but before I cobble up your airtime there, John, I just thought I'd tell you about my. It's when you're describing the atmosphere of an eerie, very unpleasant. It's just the only thing that I can think compares, well, remotely. As I said, it's nothing. Sounds quite eventful. Your one, like mine, not so much. But I just remember my dad says, "Mum will go, son, but it's just round here. This is Sonny Bean and his clan." And I remember learning a wee bit about it at school, and I says, "All right." We were making jokes on the way there. It was quite a jovial, quite a good atmosphere, and I was quite excited. And
Of course.
I mean, you're not going to, you're not going to expect to see bloody jars of pickled
Bits of
heads and
people.
feet. No, but nonetheless, we were making jokes, and it was a nice atmosphere.
Uh-huh.
But when I got there, John,
That changed.
I can't quite put my finger on it. As soon as as soon as I stepped out the motor, but as I approached, it's quite a lovely wee scenery as well. It needn't be eerie or foreboding or that, but I don't know. As you near the place, everything sort of
No, that tends to happen though. This is the thing. In my experience, any place that I've been to, um, the area, sometimes a small area, sometimes a bigger area, but the area itself takes on
yes,
this atmosphere about it.
aye,
You sense a difference in the
absolutely,
air.
yes, absolutely, John. And I think maybe maybe overthinking it now, but it was a good many a year ago. I was only a boy at the time, but it's the small things that I think I remember, John. It was even the smell of the flora, even the smell of the flowers, everything. It was.
Oh, I can believe it.
They smelled musty and unpleasant, and the wind was howling, and it sounded like it almost mimicked a human scream. It was a proper howling wind, and the weather changed as it does here in Scotland. As they say, if you don't like the weather in Scotland, you wait 20 minutes, but it just changed on a dime, and there's a
No, I accept what you say entirely. I've experienced too much. That's the thing.
aye.
I've gone through too much, and when people ask me, as they sometimes do, how did you get involved in this stuff? Well, I always tell them the same answer. I didn't go looking for the supernatural. The supernatural came looking for me.
It came upon you, yeah.
Yeah, as a boy, as a young boy. Now, I've looked at this all my life, and I always have two ways to see it. The experiences that I had when I was just a boy, was it caused by the trauma of my father's death and me being so young at 6, or was it a result of that separation of father and son that caused it to happen? And I always come down in both answers all the time, because I can see it from both sides. But that's where it started. I started getting these visitations at night.
Right.
And as I lay there in the bed, I slept in a bed by myself, and my mother was in the other room. So I was on my own, and I was aware of that, of course. But what I would, the first memories I've got of this happening is the sensation of somebody leaning their hands on the bed and putting their weight on the bed and leaning down over you.
Right.
Right. And of course, I'm lying there under the covers, terrified.
Oh, you'd be feared to
Absolutely
move,
terrified. And that went on for quite some years. Not every night or anything like that, of course. But as an adult, I began to rationalize it into, was this a man coming back to check up on his son? How is he doing as he grew up?
Right.
Then that made a lot of sense as an adult. Certainly not as a child, but that was it. And it went on for years. And of course, that then started my interest in it. Could this be real?
Aye, well, it's funny you say that, John. A couple of weeks ago, a work colleague of mine was his. He said his father died, and he's got the wee man there. And this was a few years ago. He's got a wee boy, and the three of them are very close. The fella, the granddad, and the wee boy. They're a bit of a trio.
Uh-huh.
And the granddad passed away when the wee fella was only maybe about ages with yourself there, John.
Yeah, yeah.
And the wee man, or slightly younger maybe, toddler, I think, or aye, not much older than a toddler, I think, but he heard the wee man talking to himself, and he says, "Who are you talking to, son?" He says, "Oh, granddad." Just very quickly though, he came in to say hello, and
Yeah.
I think the wee man's just full of grief and said, "All right, okay, son."
Yeah.
And this happened for a few years until he became not a young man, but what would you say, an adolescent maybe?
Yeah.
Started the big schools, so becoming of age sort of thing. So maybe
That's
it does
right.
tie in a wee bit. Like, the wee man's getting on now. He's looked after, and he's getting there. I don't need to have that protective element in it, but
I think that's what it is. That's how I rationalised it eventually. I never told anyone, because I didn't expect anybody to believe me for a starter. But the strange thing is, through my father spending so much time in hospital, he got to know the other patients rather well. And not only the patients, but the visitors to those patients. And these people who visited the people next to him in the different beds were all into seances and Ouija boards.
Oh, right.
So when my father died, and my mother then became friendly with these people and gradually became part of that crowd and gradually became part of that world of seances, which was interesting.
Aye, but very interesting. I myself, I don't think I'd dabble or delve into such endeavours. I think it's a braver man than me, I think, John. I don't know, man. There's I think you're arsing about with veils that I think you need a stout heart to be willing to wander into these portals. And
you have to be careful.
Aye,
without a doubt, you have to be careful. I didn't venture until I was in my late 20s, but that was through another connection. By then I had moved to Paisley to live, and I had met the woman who was going to become my second wife, and I was unemployed, and so I started advertising. I would take students for guitar lessons, and a young boy came to the house for guitar lessons with his mum and dad, of course, and that's what they were into. John was a spiritual healer, and I got interested in all of that through this young boy taking guitar lessons from me, and I got guided by him about what to do and what not to do and how to conduct yourself, to protect yourself, and all of that stuff. So that's how I developed that interest again.
Yeah.
And but yeah, you're right in what you say. You have to be very careful. You can't just uh, sit down and try it, because it will
Aye.
lead to trouble. It
Yeah.
really will lead to trouble.
Oh, absolutely. God help us. Yeah.
You know, even it doesn't matter. This is what some people don't understand, though. It doesn't matter if you don't believe it. They're real. These spirits, they're there and they're real, and it's better for them if you don't believe it.
Aye, you're probably right, John. I mean, as I said, I think there is some rather than nothing. Like there must surely be, not just from my own sort of brief experiences and that, but and I think I speak for many in the stream here when I say I think you're a very, I trust you, John. You're a very believable fellow. I don't think not that you
No,
wouldn't have
thank
any,
you.
you don't have anything again, but just making anything up. But I believe I like to think I'm a decent, half decent judge of character.
Yeah,
And for what you have said, I don't think you'd tell us lies or it's a
no.
miscalculation on your part. So,
Put
aye,
it
I
this
mean,
way, I've had one definite experience of the dark side,
hmm,
and I found it quite. I wouldn't. I'm looking for the proper word to use. I wouldn't say frightening. I wasn't frightened because I trusted my my own spiritual helpers. What could I say? What is it? I can't find the proper word to give it to you.
maybe sobering, kind of
Yeah,
unnerving.
yeah. You're suddenly confronted with it. There it is. You know. Let me describe the circumstances, and that'll put it in a context for you. Laura, my good lady, who's no longer with us, she uh, she was approached by a lady who was living near her and said that she was getting bothered in the house, and she knew about me, and she asked Laura, would could she ask me, would I come to the house and see if I could help her? And when Laura said she's got two kids, a wee boy and a wee girl, I thought, well, that's it, I'll need to go. So I went to the house, and what happened was, chapped the door was opened, and she stood there with the kids and the cat. The cat came out and was all over me. So I went into the house and took us into the front room. And I said, well, I don't want you to tell me anything. What I want to do is I want you to come with me and we'll go around the house and see what's what. So we left the front room and that was clean. We went into the next room, which was the kitchen, which was also clean. Now the cat is following us, and we went upstairs, which was quite unusual because this is a tenement, but it's up downstairs. I said, "Is that the children's room?" Yeah. So it was a set of bunk beds where the two wee ones slept, and we went in there, and it was clean, also, which was good. The bathroom was also clean. So there was only one room left, and that was this lady's bedroom. And we turned. I said, just you wait here, to the lady. Just you wait here, and I'll go in myself. And as I'm crossing over the threshold into this bedroom, the cat's not coming with me. It's standing outside. So I went back and I'm talking to the cat. And I'm trying to encourage the cat to come with me, and he won't budge. He just will not come in. Okay, so I stepped into the room myself, and I could sense it right away. It was up. So let me give you the geography of the room. You've got a window. There's a bed at the opposite the window, and a wardrobe. And up, right in the corner, opposite where the bed is, but right in the corner, is this sense of darkness. Don't see anything. Don't see anything at all, but there's a real sense of darkness. And I said to the woman, I says, it's in here. This thing had been attacking her in her sleep. It was trying to choke her. So I says, you go down the stairs, and off she went. But the cat stayed outside. So I sat down on the bed and started praying and talking to this entity and telling it to leave and to stop bothering this woman, etc., etc. I'm praying all the time. And after, I don't know, 20 minutes or so, half an hour, this darkness begins to dissipate out of this corner and gradually isn't there anymore. I could sense it wasn't there anymore. That's all it was, just sensations. So I came out and down the stairs, and I said to the lady, that night, by the way, I forgot to say, I'd instructed her to have the children removed, go to their granny or whatever. So they weren't in the house. Because I didn't know what would happen. If something happened, I didn't want the kids in the house. So they were elsewhere. I came back down the stairs and I told her that she was right. It wasn't her imagination. There was definitely something in the room, some presence, hostile presence in the room with her. But as far as I could tell, it had been removed from the room. And eventually we just said, there's nothing more I can do. So what I want you to do now is, should you be bothered again, let me know. Don't hesitate, let me know. And that was the end of that. And I never heard from the lady again, except through Laura. And she told me from time to time that nothing had further bothered this woman or anybody else in the house.
I can ask John, what have you surmised from that experience?
Are you talking?
I am. Can you hear me there, John?
I can hear you in the distance.
Try and the voice we hear that's in there. I don't hear too much good. I'll try and go back to it.
I still can't hear you. You want to check your sound?
Is that better, John?
Oh, that's it. That's you.
Yeah.
That's you. You've gone again. You've gone again. Aloha. He must be messing about his gear. Are you okay?
Hello, can you hear me, John?
Yeah, I can hear you again now, yeah.
Very odd that. Man. Sorry about that. I don't know what the bother is there. Very much showing I'm a novice here. But no, I was. If you can hear me now, right, I'm just asking, what do you think you can surmise for that experience, John? You think something deeply unpleasant happened in that room, man?
Oh yeah, that's what I think. and the entity who was there didn't want to leave,
Right.
and had somebody like me not going to clean the room, it would have persisted, and something nasty might have happened, nastier than what was already happening. The fact that there was children there.
Aye. Very frightening.
Yeah, well, they weren't getting bothered, thankfully. But if
Aye.
this entity had turned on them,
Aye, if it persisted, aye.
it could have been really bad.
Yeah.
Because the innocence of children can draw them.
Right.
That's why it's not unusual. It isn't unusual for wee ones to say I was talking to my granny or I was talking to my granda, because of that innocence draws grandparents, obviously.
Aye, so I've heard, aye. It's
And that's why.
perhaps they're in some way wee bit closer to that veil or
Yes.
that realm, so to speak. Yeah, and it's
Yeah. Because they haven't been muddied by the world yet. They're too young to have been muddied properly
yeah,
by the
aye,
world. So they have that innocence, like
yeah.
the animals have,
A wee bit like the cats, because
like the
I think
cats and the dogs.
our pagan ancestors, I believe, used to associate cats and that with the
The spirits.
spiritual underworld, and well,
Yeah,
this time of year as well, John. Samain, I
absolutely.
think it's called. I think is it Samain or Sham. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but the old pagan term for the last big harvest, the sort of Halloween time, as it's called, when
Yeah.
the veil is thinnest between our world and the spiritual realm. So they reckon. I'm
That's
just
right.
mildly interested in these things, don't we?
Yeah. Well, that
When you
was
preach to the choir, of course.
that's that was the one and only time that I've, if you like, crossed swords with anything
Aye,
like that. Thankfully,
I would say.
but I've had plenty of spiritual experiences where it becomes so obvious that this thing is real, that God is a real thing.
Aye,
And
absolutely. And many more cleverer men than us have held stock
absolutely,
in Christianity, and
yeah, absolutely. And then what that should allow, it should allow for us, specifically us, to take solace in the fact that we're on God's side, or
aye,
God is on our side, if you like. And therefore, how can we lose? How can we possibly lose when we've got God on our side? We can't. We can't lose. Might seem like it at times,
oh, exactly. No,
but
that's it.
we can't lose so long as we've got God on our side.
No, he did say, didn't he, when he persecuted you? Remember that he persecuted me first,
Yeah, that's right.
of course.
So that's the way I see it. But obviously, I don't encourage people to dive into these spiritual realms willy nilly. You
No,
really, you really need to know what you're about. You do.
well,
And
even
if I hadn't had that training from John McMillan, then
aye.
I probably wouldn't have had the confidence to go
No,
ahead.
well, that's it. The mere discussion is enough to put the chills up my back, mate. So I'll never delve into any of that. Wee bit like Father Merrin for The
Yeah.
Exorcist. You are. Have you seen The Exorcist, by the way? I think I've asked you this before.
Yes, I have actually, and for me, although I'm a real film buff, as you well know,
Yep,
I've still found it chilling, knowing fine well that that's real. Not that depiction of it, of
of
course,
course, aye, yeah,
but it's real. So you're
aye.
like, whoa,
Aye, well, I mean, Christ himself drove out demons, didn't he?
of
So,
course,
there you are.
exactly, exactly.
But no, it's a cracker of a film. I'm going to have to give it another watch. It's just fantastic. I remember the opening scene is great in Iraq. Well, Father Merrin.
Oh yeah, of
The
course.
opening credits, I don't know if anybody remembers, it actually starts out with the Islamic call to prayer. It's a wee bit enchanting,
Yeah.
actually. It's quite
Yeah.
nice. When he's out in Iraq here doing the excavating.
That's right.
Cracker with him.
And he finds a little statuette.
What's his name again? Pazuzu, I think, isn't it?
I can't remember.
Some old
The
Babylonian.
devil. Yeah.
Something like that, isn't it?
Not any devil, it's the devil.
Aye. Old Nick. And do you remember the dogs fighting?
Oh gosh.
Oh, the
Amazing
noise and that.
stuff.
Cracking film.
Yeah. It would have been brilliant had they just toned down some of the stuff in the bedroom.
It's a bit silly, isn't it?
It is a
It's as if they just took. I don't know if it's maybe a sign of immaturity here and there, but it's as if they just took license just for the shock value a wee bit. I'm not so sure. Looking back, it's not aged well.
Yeah.
I think the more subtle frighteners in it have aged well, though. Particularly Father, what's his name? Is it Caris, the boxer fella, the young priest?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
When he has that nightmare about his dear old mum.
Yeah. Well, that's a brilliant characterization, and he plays it so damn well. That fella.
Aye, no, he does.
Really
Does a
does.
good job, the young fella. Fearless.
Yeah.
Fearless.
So yeah, I can spend a long time talking about this stuff.
Aye, not imagine so.
But what I tell people is, unless you're there when something happens, it can sound ridiculous and silly, because so much of this depends on what we term atmosphere. You know, for example, many a time round my kitchen table, you would suddenly notice a drop in temperature. It would just suddenly go down, suddenly go cold. And then the candles would go out. Now, if you're not there to see that, experience that, it doesn't sound much. But if you're there in that room, in the dark, with candles on, and suddenly you notice you've gone cold because the temperature has dropped. And at that point, you see the candles beginning to flicker and go out. You say, well, what the hell's going on?
Aye. Well, I suppose these things are hard to explain to people. That most people assume that that doesn't sound very otherworldly, I suppose.
Well, that's my point. Unless you're there.
Unless you're there, aye, it's
yeah. Somebody's going to jump up and reach for the electric light.
I know that's it. But no, I thought I'd jump in there with the story about when I was in Ayrshire, John. As I said, I think you can only convey so much over the text, the chat there.
Yes, yes, exactly.
Because it just it sort of, when you describe the eeriness in the sense of foreboding, and you it's almost as if you knew what you were in for. Really, the energy was off, and all the rest of it. It's hard to.
There's a lot of people in the chat, by the way, Toffee being one of them, are commenting on your accent.
Well, thank you very much. I'm flattered.
If you would like to explain your accent, where it's from.
Well, I'm not want to get into too much.
No, okay.
Detail, but we'll go on to.
I'll tell you another story then. How about
that? Well, I'd say
I'll tell you a funny story.
Southwest Scotland. We'll
That'll do. Southwest Scotland. There you go, Toffee. Well, I'll tell you another.
Well, thank you very much. Ever so kind.
It is. It's a nice accent, obviously. Great for. There you go. Where the compliments fall in It's a duck. Great for storytelling. So,
Well, well, I don't wish to speak about myself. It's your stream, John. But believe it or not, I'm actually diluting my normal accent. If I was to speak in a more regional tone,
yeah.
nannies would be able to fucking understand me. That's probably my fellow Scots included.
Well, I, for one, that's just a challenge to me. So I would just like, could you just say something short and sweet just to let me hear what accent you're talking about?
uh, okay. I'm on the spot here now. Right, I'll see you in half an hour, pal. Just tack me up the road and I'll get my tea. I'll not be long, I'm home. It's Guy call it. There's a mine pit, something warm on. And
Ah,
I'll see you in the morning. Right,
that
ta-ra
sounds
now.
that sounds nice. But I understand that. That's not that broad. Not to me. But yeah, that's good. But I have to tell you this humorous story. Um,
Please do.
so I had, when I was very active in all of this stuff, I had quite a reputation for it. And this friend of a friend asked to come and sit in one of the seances. Now, you could only do this by invitation, of course. So I said yes to this man, and along he came. And he was really, uh, he was really keen on, as he would call it, making contact. So we sat down, and all the preparations had been made before he arrived. I mean, he wasn't the only person there, of course, you know.
Yeah.
And off we went. And nothing much happened for a while, as is usually the case. And then he says, he starts speaking. He starts saying to me, "Can you hear anything, John?" I said, "No." He says, I can hear a man's voice talking to me.
Right. Bloody hell.
I can't hear a thing. And of course, I'm asking the other sitters, can anybody hear anything? And they're all saying, "No, I don't hear a thing." I said, "Well, let's try and be as quiet as we can." So we're sitting, remember now, we're sitting in the dark here, folks, with the candles on. So that's an atmosphere right away. So
Oh, aye.
he starts saying, "No, I can hear it. They're really getting quite insistent, John." I said, do you recognise the voice? Says I. He says, "It sounds like my brother."
Oof.
Really?
Jesus.
He said, "Yeah." He says, "The thing is, he's not dead." And then suddenly he says, "Oh, wait a minute." He goes into his trouser pocket and pulls out his mobile phone.
Away.
He's got his phone on, and his brother's phoning him and talking to him through the phone.
The muffled phrase choose a pocket in that
Yeah,
one.
so it's all muffled because it's in his trouser pocket. That was the
God.
atmosphere. He's got this. Some spirits talking to
His clairvoyant business never took off. See, you'd built that up well there, John. I was starting to get the old tingles in the back of the
him.
neck, but
Oh, wow.
fantastic.
See, you remember things like that, So but you've got to see that side of it. You've got to explain to people. I mean, believe it or not, folks, this is a true story again, honestly. uh, it's a woman. Uh, and what I very quickly learned was you had to differentiate when women came to see me. I would say, are you looking to know the future, or are you looking for evidence of life after death? Because not all people want the same knowledge. And this woman said, I'm looking for proof of life after death. I said, okay. Now here, I swear to God, this is what was said to me. I said, what would you accept as proof of life after death? She said, a letter. A letter. Yeah. If my late husband could write me a letter, I would know then that it's all real. I said, well, as far as I know, there isn't a postal service on the other side.
No, I wouldn't have thought so. It's quite,
But
it's
this is
quite
the kind of
concrete, that.
nonsense you get.
Mm.
People put
Aye.
these extraordinary claims forward. Yeah, if I could get a letter, would it be first class or second class?
I was just thinking that there, John. How, Ken?
Or is it going to be registered?
I know. Aye, no, that's.
But this is what you get. And
Aye.
you have to be very careful and diplomatic. You just can't say, oh, don't be so ridiculous, Mrs. You know? Well, she
Aye,
was, she
well,
was she was being ridiculous, of course. So I don't know what film she saw that idea in.
well, as you say, John, I suppose you have to be delicate with these things because the woman obviously was either
Yes.
bore a lot of grief or she could not come to the terms with that her late husband
God.
was away and
Yeah.
maybe wanted such
Yeah.
fantastic, such a divine bloody, quite a fantastic example for
Yeah.
Ken, for it. I don't know, but
Because the thing is that what constitute proof. I remember another night. It was in a different house. It wasn't my house. It was a client's house. Went to, and it was 5 women. And I sat down and started preparing myself. And I said, I can't continue here. She said, and the lady said, why not? I said, because that lady over there is pregnant, and I don't conduct any of this stuff when there's pregnant women in the room
right,
or even on the premises.
aye.
Now, the answer for that is, well, if anything were to go wrong with the pregnancy, who do you think would get the blame?
Oh, absolutely, aye. At the very least, levying undue stress on the childbearing woman and.
No, it'd be more like, he brought the devil in here, and
Oh, well, aye, I suppose, aye. Yeah, at worst.
that's the kind of stuff that you would get. So I said, no, I'm sorry, I'm not going to do anything here. I said, she'll have to leave or I'll have to leave.
And just before you said that there, John, a bottle of conditioner just fell down in the bathroom.
Now that's odd. Now I'll tell you how odd that is, because that was the thing that started to happen, because this was in the
Oh,
kitchen.
don't tell me that. Lord help me.
She had a 6 foot tall fridge, right?
Yeah,
And I didn't know, of course. And it's stacked with bottles of wine. And all these wine bottles started to burst open,
oof.
flooding
Jesus.
out into the kitchen. Because what I didn't know, wasn't aware of, this woman's husband had only died about 2, 3 days ago.
Right.
Now, had I known that, I would never have went near the place
Aye.
because it's too raw. it's too close to the event of death itself.
Of course.
And so this is all going on, bang, pop. Oh, what a night. Do you know, this is a true story. And I say that because of what I'm about to say now. It's the time I left that house, I went home, got a cab, straight home, straight to my bed, and I was in my bed for the next 3 weeks, ill,
Right.
because it would do that to me. If it was a really upsetting experience, it would put me in my bed ill.
Yeah.
It was awful, absolutely awful. All sorts of stuff went on. And that's why, because it was far too close to the death.
Aye.
It never happened. So that's why I say you got to be careful. You got to be careful.
Yeah. Absolutely.
You know.
Well, we've been into our new house here about a year. We moved. My wee family moved into our new house in a year. It's good
Nice.
vibes, man. Good. It's nice, John.
That's
really
good.
lovely.
You got kids?
Aye, we've got young kids. Yeah.
That's nice. What ages?
Toddlers, pretty much.
Right. That's nice. That nice age.
Aye, most of the time.
You'll run out of steam before they will. That's for sure.
Oh, absolutely. No, that's why I'm actually jumping the stream tonight, John. The wee one's settled unusually well tonight.
That's
The
good.
missus is away visiting family,
Right.
not too far away from our toffee, I would imagine, in that way. So,
All right.
um,
So you enjoying the new house then?
oh, it's cracking, John. Great, lovely. Just a lovely wee abode to raise my young family. Ken, I'm over the moon, man. It's really lovely.
That's good. That's good.
Good vibes. But
Good neighbours.
oh, lovely. Aye, great. Good, honest folks. And I mean, I live in a small town, like, but I'd never encountered these people before, and I'm sort of glad I did, because you know.
We've lost you. I loved you. I've lost you. Yeah. You're lost to us.
Oh, sorry, I'm back now. I got a phone
Ah,
call.
okay.
But I better bugger off, John. But it's been an absolute pleasure to join you, sir.
Yeah, it has. It's been great talking to you.
Um,
And
wee
we'll
bit
have.
nervous, if I'm honest. I was a wee bit starstruck, there, old boy. If I must be honest with you.
Well, why not? If you've not done it before, people do get nervous. I mean, that's just natural, of course.
Aye, and I'm sure
But
I made a few errors along the way in that,
don't be silly.
but no, I'm cramping your style here, mate. But
Not at all.
I
And
shall.
we'll have you back. We'll have you back
Oh,
at
if
some
you,
future point.
if he's willing to talk with me, that'd be lovely.
Of course. Now you give your good lady wife a hello from me.
I certainly will do. I've showed you wee snippets before. Do you know what I showed her just before I go, John?
Uh-huh.
Do you remember the wee short story that I wrote a couple of years ago
Yes.
for Halloween?
Uh-huh.
I showed my good lady your recital
All right.
of the wee short story. He said, "Oh,
Uh-huh.
he's a very good reader, him.
Well, that was good.
Very lovely voice, very charming."
Very nice.
And I says, "What about me?" I says, "I wrote the story." She says, "No, like the story." I says, "Oh, it was good as well, but."
Incidentally, by the way, the
Aye.
story was quite good.
Oh, thank you very much.
No, well, I'll be doing something again now that I've had my interview this morning with the doctors. I can rest my mind now. I can think about doing the Halloween stream again.
Aye, well, that's terrific news, John, on that
And
front.
you can put pen to paper and
Aye, cobble something else up, mate. Aye.
Yeah, why not? Maybe this time you could come on and read it yourself. You never know.
No, I'll leave that. I'll leave that to the best. I'll
Yeah,
leave that to the best.
thank
That's
you.
yourself.
Thank
But
you.
no, thanks again for having me, John. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Oh, pleasure's all mine, my friend. Really good. Really
Thank
good.
you. You
All right.
take care, John.
Yeah, you too. You
Thanks
too.
now. Bye bye.
Bye. Well, there you go, folks. Silliest. So there you go. Everybody's giving you the big thumbs up, Silliest. So that's all good. We'll have you back. Don't worry. At some point. So that's why I couldn't answer the other night when I was asked about the Halloween stream. I wanted to wait until I had received the latest diagnosis from the consultant. The boss's stream. Thank you all for the kind words. It was a pleasure to frequent the boss's stream. Very good. Yeah, I think he's made a great guest. Do I tell stories on Scottish folklore? Well, I suppose I do, but John's the boss, all right. um, where are we? Oh, there we are. That book. Thank you very much, Toffee, and every one of you. This is a book called Tales of Dark and Stranger Worlds. It's an anthology of short stories. And I suppose that would loosely uh, fall under the heading of I've actually done some of these on the Halloween stream. This one here, Midnight Mourner. I'll read you the contents. Sunset Swan. Now that's a story that I'm quite proud of. When I was sitting, I don't know if you have this down in England. They don't even have it in Scotland anymore. But at one time we had an English examination. It was called a 6-year study. It was the highest exam you could sit as a school pupil. And I sat it as a very mature pupil. And I took the creative writing aspect of it. And this is the story I wrote called Sunset Swans. And I might read it to you on Halloween. It starts, "When I was young," said the old man, "I used to think that when I was old, I would be wise and young people would seek my advice. But it's not like that. It's not like that at all." He added, "If anyone asks, and it's rare that they do, they listen and then go off and do what they wanted to do in the first place." His wife Mary smiled because she'd heard it so many times before. And that's how it starts. Now that SYS examination, well, going on about it is because I'm very proud of my achievement. There were 6 people in Scotland that year got an A pass. I was one of them. So you've got Sunset Swan, Midnight Mourner, Terminus, Table Talk, The Immortals, The Ghost at the King's, Dead Man's Hand, Knock Knock, Who's There, What Are Little Dreams Made Of, The Storm, Lost in Paradise, A Company Man, Let Us Go, Timber, Whatever Happened to Gene Kelly, and Who Killed John Kidd, and The Way of the Road. That's the stories that is in this book. You could get it at Amazon. It's the back cover. All short stories. So anyway, that's the nearest I would say that I read the Scottish folklore. I've got books on it up here on my shelf. Duck. John, when you write a story, do you begin with a character or a scenario, or does it work both ways for you? If it's one in particular, what benefits do you find to use that approach? He's asking. The likes of that one that I read there, or started to read, Sunset Swan. It was the idea of the scenario, the vignette, if you like, of an old man and an old lady, married couple, be together for 50 odd years, and they're getting towards the end of their life. Was that. Other times, I think it's mainly, to be honest, it's mainly the central idea for the story. Knock Knock, Who's There? That story comes from a particular piece of history in the family. The ghost at the King's is in part from real history. Now, the King's was a cinema in the town. It started life as a variety theatre. Then it eventually became a cinema for movies. So I don't think there's any one way particular. Let me think who would be different there. The story called The Storm, for example, Duck, was based on the idea of a tenement building. As you know, in a tenement building, you've got house, 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 all the way up to the attic. And I thought it would be interesting to tell a story about each apartment in the tenement building and what was happening in this one night. A night, this storm is going on outside, and what was happening inside each tenement flat. I thought that would make an interesting idea for a story, and that's the way I wrote it. So each apartment, something different is happening. I thought it was quite a good idea, but then again, I would it was mine. Yes, Julia, I did write The Dark Woods Yonder. Have you got Amazon in front of you? Have you? Dark Woods Yonder is again, it's me doing something a bit different. There it is here. The Dark Woods Yonder. Now you looked it up, Julia. Well, the Dark Woods Yonder is set at the turn of the 20th century. Duck is saying, thanks, Sean. I have one or two ideas for stories. And with me, it has been the scenario. That's a good idea for a story about the occurrences in different houses on one night. Yeah, well, I think that a tenement is tailor-made for that idea, to be honest. And there's Richard. John, is that story you mentioned sounds a bit like the James Stewart film Rear Window? I suppose you could say that. Yep, I wouldn't take offence at that comparison. It's the same sort of thing. I never thought about that before, Richard, but you're right. I would say it has all sorts of thematic similarities. So yeah, you're right. I've recorded some of them, which I do play at Halloween. The only thing it's have to be careful about is the length. Some of them are much longer than others. This is a musical drama. The Legend of La Scala. Strange how I never noticed that, Richard. The similarity between the two. So there you go. That's the back cover. That's the front cover. And there they are. That's the books. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 books. This is the one I thought I would sell, but didn't. Citadel of the Black Sun. A novella. What's that? What are you folk talking about? I'm sure you've read a Halloween poem to us before. Yes, I have indeed. I'll need to start thinking about that now. And if any of you folk would like to send material in for me to read on Halloween, I will do it. Anglo, they are all for sale on Amazon. That's a new name here, Carol Borg. What's my favourite? Wow, what's my favourite? This is the only non-fiction book that I've written. So I separate that straight away. Because it's part of my life that I'm writing about. My favourite. That's tough. I like this because it's a ghost story, but it's different. It's unlike any ghost story I've read in the past. This one. The Dark Woods Yonder. Because it's got more than one ghost story in it. It's a novel, but it has more than one storyline. I'll read you a wee bit of this. This is the one I really thought would sell. This one. It's not the one that I encourage people to buy. That's what I keep inside it. 2017 published date. Acknowledgements. Many thanks to Laura Jackson and Julian Agnew. Without their individual contributions, this book would not be possible. This is a work of fiction. Right, so you'd like me to read a wee bit of this then, okay? This is the preface. This is written by Dr. Julian Agnew, Glasgow and Lisbon, April 2017. Okay, I'll read a bit of this. Why do we continue to be intrigued by conspiracy theories? I suspect it is because to be human means we will always be looking for answers. Sometimes the search for truth is more rewarding than the discovery of the elusive truth, or even truths. As far back as human history records the exploits of antagonists and protagonists, we have been entertained or enlightened by stories, tales, myths, and legends of quests or journeys towards fulfillment in some shape or form. Often, if not unusually, the characters find out more about themselves during the quest rather than at the end of it. The process is more important than the resolution. Or is it the resolution actually a beginning of a new process rather than an end at all? I have known John Davidson for well over 20 years now. He has been exceptionally productive in this time. Novels, stories, adaptations, poetry, dramas and music, sometimes all at once. His work, in my opinion, is mostly concerned with the themes of identity and humanity. What makes us who we are and what makes us act and react the way we do. Alternative history stories have once again become popular. I am thinking of The Man in the High Castle or even SSGB, both of which have been broadcast recently. These stories also concern themselves with familiar themes to Citadel of the Black Sun and occupy the same alternative history territory, an imagined alternative outcome to the Second World War. However, I think Citadel of the Black Sun is by far a more ambitious piece of work. Davidson often employs a multi-layered technique to enrich his narratives. In the first part of the story, we have three accounts from survivors of a future nuclear war. All of these accounts are related in the first person, which gives this part of the story a vivid immediacy as each character describes their journey to the camp in a quest for safety and security. The second part of the story shifts the narrative from Scotland to Antarctica and concentrates on the society living below the inhospitable surface. These colonists are descendants of the original German settlers who began to develop this outpost from the 1920s onward. This society has developed more or less independently from the rest of the world, and when faced with the dilemma of rescuing survivors of the nuclear war, it raises interesting questions about their humanity and their identity. The fact that this underground society in Antarctica was established by a secret branch of the SS, the KBS, and is effectively a Nazi bastion allows Davidson to explore the themes mentioned above while also attempting to explain some of the conspiracy theories which are still circulating. You want me to go on? Will I go on, or have you heard enough? I'll go on a bit. I'll do the whole intro. It's not much to go. One of my favourite stories is Lovecraft's At the Mountains of Madness, and I see some respectful similarities in the Citadel of the Black Sun. Both are concerned with the Antarctic continent. When Lovecraft was writing it, it really was terra incognita and easy to imagine as a place where an ancient civilization could be slumbering. Explorers arrive and fairly quickly begin to realize that this lost continent civilization holds much more than they bargained for. It is such a good setting for a story like this because even today it remains one of the most enigmatic places on our planet. Without giving too much away, Citadel of the Black Sun imagines a similar narrative, but the antagonists are not so otherworldly and therefore, in the end, much more terrifying. When we look into the darkness of the abyss certainly does not shrink. It fixes us with a penetrating and unforgiving gaze that can enlighten but will always make us question our own humanity. Davidson is not afraid to look into the abyss on our behalf. He knows It is always the evil that men do to other men that most clearly defines their identity, what makes us human. I do not believe that Davidson will ever tire of exploring the answer to this particular quest. I am glad I know John Davidson. After reading these and hopefully other stories, you will be glad you know him too. Dr. Julian Agnew, Glasgow and Lisbon, April 2017. And now you get a poem. The children of the shadows brought forth the black sun and healed the rancid wasteland. A great silence fell upon the face of the earth. So shall it be, as it was in the beginning, when darkness reigned all dominions. I wrote that in 2015. So there you go, folks. I won't bore you with any more. Well, it can't be that bad if I'm getting compared to Lovecraft, eh? So anyway, I thought that book would have done better than it has. So if you want to go rush off and buy it, please do. The book that sold the most is the one about my wife. Yeah, it is an interesting subject, David. Yes, Linda, that's exactly what it is. It's the poem I wrote for the introduction. So I'm glad we got that. I'm glad we had a nice guest on. That was good. Most of the folk that's ever come on here are pretty decent and pretty interesting people. But we'll have him back again. So get your thinking caps on and yes, Doc, it's on Amazon. They all are. If you can remember the title, that'll help you get there. Citadel of the Black Sun. You'll see them all there. So I built that story, by the way, out of stuff that I found on YouTube, material that I found on YouTube. I was going to put a quote in there that I came across in a history book. It's a quote from 1942. It was Hermann Goering speaking to the Admiral of the German Navy. And he said, and the quote is, we have, and this is where I got the title from, we have built a citadel at the far end of the world, should the Fuhrer ever decide to use it. But then I decided against putting that quote in. I was concerned that Amazon wouldn't pass the novel for publication. Oh, well, thank you very much, David. That's very nice. My partner is a big reader. Read all the Terry Pratchett. I own them. We'll get it for her Christmas. Oh, that's nice. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I take your point. I take your point, Aglo. I do. So anyway, trouble is I can't tell you how many copies I've sold of any of these books. They don't supply you with that kind of information, I'm sorry to say. David, we free men, there's a lot of truths in works of fiction like yours, by the sounds of it, John. There is. This could be bigger. Yes, Linda, that was silly as it came in. Well, he wasn't giving too much away, but it's lovely. Steve, thank you very much, my friend. I don't know what happened, Steve, but I phoned you a couple of days ago and somebody answered, and I don't know who it was. It wasn't you, obviously. So I hung up. We'll have Sillius back, of course. I encourage some of you other folk to come on. Be nice. Because as Sillius said, the kind of conversation we were having, it doesn't work too well when you're typing it. It really needs to be spoken. Now, that's for sure. So there you go, folks. Toffee. Steve is actually a black guy who works in a Nigerian call centre. A black guy, yeah. The thing is, folks, I'm answering really Anglo here. A lot depends on why you're coming on. Now, Silius was coming on because he wanted to tell that story with him and his dad. So that was more than half the battle. He, he had something to say. He knew what he wanted to say. And that takes some of the stress away. And other people tell me, I mean, Toffee's one, he was on ages ago for the first time, long time ago now. But anyone who comes on, they always pay me this great compliment. I mention Toffee because he's there. Uh, all of that went out of my mind, Duck, about having Jory on. Uh, One thing or another, I forgot all about it, to be honest. Uh, it, we'll try it at some point to have her on. It was to talk about the subject of uh, isolation and loneliness. I thought that was useful. And I haven't met her. So, yeah, that's the point. The point is, if you were coming on, if one of you good people were coming on and I had been talking about something and it was something that you could talk about because you had uh, experienced the thing, that would make it a lot easier for you to speak. The other thing that people worry about unnecessarily Toffee, us Scousers are very mouthy, talkative people. We are naturally suited to streams. Well, I'm sure there are Scousers, as you like to call yourself, uh, who are not like that. But I take your point. I do take your point. I haven't seen Rory for a while either, Anglo. I just need your bank details. I don't know if it's a choice, Anglo, or perhaps he's unwell. I don't know. It's hard to know. He didn't take kindly to the I gave him a little scolding and he didn't take kindly to it. Wolfie, I don't want to sound like I know it all. If my dear Laura were here, she would be able to tell you that I warned her about the financial crisis that was looming about 2 years before the lockdowns. So I've been waiting on it coming. I believe it's already happened and it's been covered up for a long time. And it'll be far worse than the 30s. That's for sure. And I think it will make it worse is the fact that people have got so much debt now, unlike back in the 20s and 30s. There wasn't so much personal debt. I was taking the mickey. I'm waiting on a financial crash and have been all this time. A lot of what is going on is to hide it. As far as Rory's concerned, he was never the same after I scolded him a little bit. But there's nothing I could do about that. I felt as though I had to say something and I said it. That was that. Right. The outro music. Oh, there's Sheila. Well, that's okay, Sheila. Don't you worry too much about that. Family. Family is so important. You want to know what I scolded him for? Simple. He and Viking, exile Viking, were constantly saying that they were going to join the party and never did. And that went on for over a year. And if there's any one thing that will get under my skin, it's people who say they're going to do something and then they don't do it. So I got the two of them about it. I told them to stop saying that. If you're going to join the party, join it. Or don't say you're going to join it and then not join it. So yeah, I'll get your welcome pack posted tomorrow, David. David has become the latest member of the party. And for the other members of the party in the stream, would you please kindly pay your subscription? It's due. Okay. The strange thing, to finish that up, Anglo, it's the same strange thing is, eventually, Exile Viking joined the party. But Rory never really came back to the stream. The first time he came back, he was busily showing me that he had invested a few pounds in a cigarette holder, which I thought was a wise move. I didn't know about that, Toffee. You'll need to tell me about that story sometime. Right, folks. It's time to close the stream. I'm glad you enjoyed the stream, and it was really nice having an unexpected guest on, I must say. So, as always, adios, au revoir, cheerio, and until Tuesday evening, goodbye for now. I'll speak to you all on Tuesday night, hopefully, God willing, and enjoy the rest of the weekend. So take care, folks. Enjoy the music.
Silently the snow falls, paints a winter scene, swiftly spreads the dark rim, hides a fading autumn green. Moonbeams brush the dark wood, conjure friendships dear to me. Lightly now the breeze flows, disturbing more than just the leaves. But life's much more than we can know. We are one small glow in the eternal flow. Patiently the love grows, lifts the weary heart. Gently now she holds me, melts two worlds once apart. Moonbeams brush the dark wood, usher dreams of you and me. Softly then the breeze blows, disturbing more than just the trees.
All together now.
But love's much more,
So much more
than we can know.
than we could ever possibly.
We are one small glow,
But an important glow.
in the eternal flow. Melodies of long ago, songs of innocence, harmonies to soothe the soul, have some consequence. Moonbeams brush the dark wood, awakening joys of you and me. Silently the snow falls, bringing winter symphony.
All together now,
But we're much more
so much more
than we can know.
than we can ever possibly know.
We are one small glow
But an important one.
in the eternal flow. But life's much more than we can know. We are one small glow in the eternal flow.
Well, I don't know who Mushroom is, but I will say, rest in peace, whoever you are. Your dog? Oh, for goodness sake. Oh, sorry to hear that. Oh, there's always something. Thank you, Trevor. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. And I'm really sorry to hear about your dog. That's awful.